A courtroom packed with adults fell silent. Not because of a judge or a lawyer, but because a 7-year-old girl stood up, pointed at the officer who arrested her father, and said, "You're lying. I saw everything." What happened next shook everyone to their core. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, when Marcus Johnson left work early to pick up his 7-year-old daughter, Amara, from school. The sun was setting low, casting a soft golden light over the quiet streets as they drove home, chatting about her day and her drawing for art class. Marcus had promised to stop by her favorite ice cream shop on the way back, a simple reward for her perfect spelling test. Everything felt normal, calm until flashing red and blue lights appeared in the rearview mirror. Marcus signaled and pulled over immediately. He wasn't speeding, and everything on the car was in order, or so he thought. A police officer approached, stern and direct, asking for his license and registration. Marcus complied without hesitation, but something felt off. The officer's tone was sharp, his words short. Without explaining the reason for the stop, the officer demanded Marcus step out of the vehicle. Confused, Marcus asked if something was wrong. That's when the officer opened the driver's door and pulled him out, pushing him against the hood. Amara screamed from the back seat, calling for her daddy. Marcus tried to keep calm, repeating that his daughter was watching, but the officer didn't listen. He twisted Marcus's arm and slapped the cuffs on tightly. "You're under arrest for obstruction and resisting," the officer said coldly. Amara cried harder, her small voice echoing in the street, clutching her stuffed bear tightly as she watched her father being taken away. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, but no one came outside. As the patrol car drove away, Amara sat silently in the back of her grandmother's car, her tiny hands shaking. No one explained anything to her. All she knew was that her father was kind, gentle, and had done nothing wrong. But now, he was gone, arrested, in front of her eyes, and the image of that officer's face was burned into a memory. Something inside her knew this wasn't over. The courthouse was cold and quiet the morning of Marcus's hearing. People moved slowly through security, whispering about the case of a man accused of threatening a police officer during a traffic stop. Marcus's mother arrived with Amara holding her hand tightly, dressed in a neat yellow dress and clutching her stuffed teddy bear. Amara looked small and out of place among the crowd of lawyers, officers, and reporters. Her grandmother tried to keep her calm, gently telling her they were just there to support her daddy, but Amara was already lost in thought. She remembered every second of the day her father was arrested, how he didn't yell, didn't fight, just asked why he was being pulled out of the car. That memory played like a movie in her head on a loop, and it made her heart heavy. Inside the courtroom. Marcus sat at the defense table in a clean shirt, his hands folded, his face calm but tired. When he saw Amara walk in, their eyes met, and a small smile appeared on his face. It was the first time she had seen him smile since that terrible day. She sat quietly beside her grandmother on the hard wooden bench, her little legs swinging nervously. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just watched. Her eyes followed the officer who had arrested her father as he walked confidently into the courtroom. He didn't look at her. He didn't look guilty. The judge entered. The room rose, and the trial began. Lawyers started speaking, showing papers, asking questions, using big words that Amara didn't understand. But none of that mattered to her. She was there for one reason: to be near her daddy. As she listened to people talk about her father like he was dangerous or dishonest, she felt something stir in her chest. She wanted to speak, but she didn't know how or when. Still, something inside her knew the truth needed to come out. And maybe, just maybe, she would be the one to tell it. The courtroom grew tense as the police officer took the witness stand. He sat up straight in his uniform, his badge shining under the lights, speaking with confidence and authority. The prosecutor began asking questions, and the officer calmly told his version of what happened that day. He claimed Marcus was acting suspicious from the moment he pulled him over. According to him, Marcus refused to show his ID, raised his voice, and made sudden movements inside the car. He said he feared for his safety, which is why he removed Marcus from the vehicle and put him in handcuffs. As the officer spoke, many people in the courtroom nodded slowly, believing his every word. After all, he was the one in uniform, the one trained to keep others safe. His words were smooth, practiced, and strong. But one pair of eyes didn't blink. Amara sat completely still, gripping her bear tighter, watching him closely. She felt her stomach twist with every lie he told. Her father hadn't shouted. He hadn't moved suddenly. He was helping her with her seatbelt, talking softly, and trying to calm her down. But now, the man who had grabbed her father and scared her too. Tears was painting him as a threat. She looked around the room, confused at how no one seemed to question it. The judge nodded. The jury listened carefully. No one knew the truth like she did. The truth was so clear in her mind, but no one had asked her. No one even looked at her. The officer finished his testimony by saying, "It was a dangerous situation. I did what I had to do." Amara's eyes filled with tears. Her small hands trembled. How could someone stand in front of all these people and lie? She looked at her dad, who sat quietly, his head lowered. He didn't look angry, just tired and sad. That made her even more sure. She couldn't stay silent. She might be small, but her voice carried something bigger than fear, the truth. And deep down, she knew it was almost time to use it. The officer stepped down from the witness stand. The courtroom grew quiet again. The next witness was being called, but before the lawyer could speak, a small voice suddenly broke the silence. "That's not what happened." All heads turned. Amara was standing up from her seat, her teddy bear held tight in one hand, her other hand pointing straight at the officer. Her grandmother whispered for her to sit down, panicked, but the judge gently raised his hand to stop her. "Let the girl speak," he said, surprised but calm. Amara's voice trembled slightly, but her eyes stayed focused. "My daddy didn't yell. He was helping me with my seatbelt. That man grabbed him for no reason. He didn't do anything wrong." For a moment, no one said a word. The courtroom, filled with adults who had been arguing over legal terms and reports, had gone completely still, listening to a little girl speak from the heart. The judge leaned forward and asked her to come closer. Amara stepped up slowly, her tiny shoes tapping the floor, and stood in front of the courtroom like she had been preparing for this moment her whole life. She told them what she saw, how her father stayed calm, how he gently leaned over to help her buckle in, how the officer yanked him out of the car before he even finished. She spoke with simple words, but with a power that no adult could match. Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes as he watched his daughter speak up for him. The officer looked away, suddenly avoiding her gaze. Amara finished by saying, "He scared me. But my daddy didn't. My daddy kept telling me it was going to be okay." The judge nodded slowly. The courtroom stayed quiet. No one clapped. Number 1 moved. But everyone knew they had just witnessed something unforgettable. A child had spoken the truth that no one else had dared to say out loud. And in that moment, the whole case felt like it had shifted. Not because of evidence, but because of courage. After Amara's brave words shook the courtroom, a quiet tension settled over everyone. The judge leaned back in his chair, deep in thought, then turned to the prosecution. "Is the officer's body cam footage available?" he asked. The prosecutor hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Within minutes, a screen was set up, and the courtroom lights dimmed slightly. All eyes were glued to the video as it began to play. At first, it was just the inside of the officer's patrol car. Then, it showed Marcus's vehicle pulled over calmly. The officer approached, asking for documents. Marcus complied without hesitation. His tone was respectful, his movements slow. No shouting, no aggression. Just a father trying to explain that his daughter was in the back seat and he was helping her buckle up. Then the video showed the moment that made the room hold its breath. Marcus leaned slightly to the right, reaching toward Amara in the back seat to adjust her seatbelt. That's when the officer suddenly yanked the door open, shouting for Marcus to get out. Marcus turned, startled, and raised his hands in confusion. Still, the officer dragged him out roughly and slammed him onto the car, yelling commands. Amara's scream could be heard clearly in the background, crying out, "Daddy!" As the officer cuffed him on the spot, there was no resistance. Number 2 threat, just for ran silence except for Amara's sobs. When the video ended, no one said a word. The officer stared at the floor. The judge's expression had changed completely, his calm now replaced with disbelief and quiet disappointment. "So the child was telling the truth," he said firmly. The prosecutor offered no argument. The defense attorney stood, asking for an immediate dismissal of charges. The judge nodded. What had started as just another case of an officer's word against a man's became something else entirely, because of one little girl who refused to stay silent. The video only confirmed what her words had already shown. The truth had been ignored. Until a child reminded everyone what it looked like, and now, justice had no choice but to follow. The courtroom, once filled with doubt and heavy silence, now buzzed with quiet realization. The judge looked directly at Marcus, his voice steady and clear. Mr. Johnson, all charges against you are dismissed. You are free to go. A wave of emotion swept over Marcus as he stood slowly, holding back tears. He turned toward his daughter, who was already rushing from her seat. Amara threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest, and he held her close, tighter than ever before. For the first time in days, her sobs weren't from fear, they were from relief. The people in the courtroom, even those who had doubted him, now looked on with respect. Some wiped their eyes. Others clapped softly, touched by the moment. The officer who had accused Marcus stood silently in the corner, avoiding every gaze. The judge made no comment about him, but his expression said enough. It was a powerful reminder that authority does not excuse dishonesty, and uniforms do not make someone right. But no punishment would ever match what had just happened. A man's name was cleared, and a child's voice had turned the tide of justice. As Marcus walked out of the courthouse holding Amara's hand. The sun had broken through the clouds. Reporters tried to approach, but he didn't stop for interviews. He didn't need to explain anything. The truth had already been seen and heard by the world. Amara looked up at him and whispered, "We can still get ice cream, right?" He laughed, a deep, joyful sound that he hadn't made in days. "Absolutely," he said, picking her up in his arms. That day didn't end with a dramatic speech or a grand statement. It ended with a father and daughter walking away together, stronger than before. Amara had reminded everyone that courage isn't about size or age, it's about standing up when no one else will. And as they disappeared down the courthouse steps, hand in hand, the world around them finally felt a little more right. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Subscribe to Deep Wounds for more powerful true stories that speak straight to the heart.